planning that there were 2 or 3 very interesting videos that had just been made related to Trinidad and Tobago, related to the UN, related to multilateralism, that might, in a sense, get us in the party spirit, because it went from, if you like, dry academic policy analysis into music, into logos, into history, and I thought particularly for those of you from away that this would give you a little flavor, because it's very important to remember, as many of us tend not to do, that for a country of just over 1 million people, the diversity of food, peoples, music, cultures here is really quite remarkable. And these videos begin to capture some of it, as well as the first one, a little bit of history. It also seemed to me important that we recognize that we have had one summit and we're about to go into another, and that therefore these 3 vignettes hopefully will capture some of that spirit and get us through the closing remarks into what is meant to be at 5:45, but may now be 5:55, the closing reception over at the Institute with appropriate libations and music, courtesy of one of our alums and lecturers, the head of the Defense Force, the Defense Force Steel Orchestra. Joy Brathwaite has been a great supporter and friend of the Institute. We did a very interesting launch of the UNDP Human Development Report on climate change, and we're very glad that she's here this evening to introduce the video on the UN in Trinidad and Tobago, which, as you will see, has some wonderful illustrations and introductions to some leading figures in the contemporary history of this Twin Island Republic. Joy, welcome.
Thank you very much, Tim. And other members of the head table, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I should say that my name is Joy Brathwaite. I am the UN Coordination and Communications Specialist for the UN system in Trinidad and Tobago. And though Tim often refers to me as the UNDP colleague, I like to say that here I speak on behalf of the entire UN system in Trinidad and Tobago, lest other agencies in the system decide to take, one side. In terms of the video which you will see, it speaks to the UN system in Trinidad and Tobago since it was established in this country in the early 1960s. And it is one of the longest serving international organizations, which has contributed to the growth and development of this multicultural society. For the next 11 minutes, we will show a video which will allow us to reminisce about the birth of the United Nations in this country. It will also fast forward to highlights of the contribution of the system to national development over almost half a century through the experiences of His Excellency Sir Ellis Clarke, a former president of Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Colin Grandison, who is currently an Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM, the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Her Excellency Dr. Marjorie Thorpe, a former Trinidad and Tobago Ambassador to the United Nations, Mrs. Angela Cropper, Deputy Executive Director of the UN Environmental Program, and our resident coordinator, Dr. Marcia de Castro. She has been here for the earlier days, but I haven't seen her as yet. She may still be here this evening. Oh, she will be here. The video demonstrates how the UN continues to work with the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago to address current and emergent challenges to attain our development goals. So please enjoy the next few minutes with us. It was not a silent movie, so I guess the sound will come just now.
Racial origins and subscribing to a variety of religious beliefs can, in harmonious world progress and world happiness.
As the night follows day, on independence, you tend to become a member of the United Nations. It was the thing to do. It would have seemed very strange if you didn't seek to be a member of the United Nations. And in fact, it gives you a role on the world stage and gives you access to many other countries with which you would not have direct diplomatic or other ties, but you get to know them and be associated with them through the UN. So it's a very useful means of making all the necessary contacts with countries all around the world.
And so the government of the newly independent Trinidad and Tobago, under the leadership of Dr. Eric Williams, sought official representation at the United Nations, and on the 18th September 1962 became a member of this global association of governments, which facilitates cooperation in international law, security, economic development and social equity, the United Nations. The United Nations Information Center and the Technical Assistance Board, the precursor of the United Nations Development Program, established offices in Trinidad and Tobago in 1961.
At a cocoa conference held at Hilton Hotel, the Prime Minister welcomed about 100 delegates from 20 countries. The conference, under the sponsorship of the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, aimed at stabilizing the price of cocoa. This was the first international conference held in Trinidad since its independence.
When Trinidad and Tobago became independent, it required expertise in a number of areas. And the United Nations was in a position precisely through its specialized agencies, its network of agencies, programs and funds to provide a lot of assistance to Trinidad and Tobago. For example, things like public administration, tax administration, rural development, physical planning were some of the programs that were undertaken. With the assistance of the specialized agencies like UNESCO, a lot of work was done in the area of education planning, textbook production. We look at the area of health. The World Health Organization gave assistance in the area of public health. The International Civil Aviation Organization gave assistance to establish in Trinidad and Tobago a school to be able to train air traffic controllers. These are just some of the examples. The list is quite long. I think perhaps a very important one that should be mentioned is the assistance that was given by the United Nations, even before, just a little bit before independence, in funding a program to train engineers at St. Augustine, at the UE, Faculty of Engineering in St. Augustine. So these are some of the areas in which the United Nations was able to be of great assistance in the early days of the independence of Trinidad and Tobago.
From the early post-colonial era and into the new millennium, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has benefited from and contributed to the United Nations.
Trinidad and Tobago was a member of the Security Council. It played a leadership role in the Special Committee on the Implementation of Decolonization, as well as the Special Committee Against Apartheid. Trinidad and Tobago also reintroduced the debate on the establishment of an international criminal court, and the court, as you know, has now been established as an independent entity.
I am Angela Cropper, Deputy Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program, also popularly known as UNEP. I come from Trinidad and Tobago, a very, very tiny country, and so I am privileged, I think, to be able to be part of this global enterprise and to be able to contribute to UNEP in the programmatic, management, leadership, political, and diplomatic aspects of its work.
In 2000, member states agreed to time-bound targets to attaining better lives for their peoples. These are known as the Millennium Development Goals and are consistent with the Strategic Vision 2020 plan of the Trinidad and Tobago government.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago is most appreciative of the important role played by the United Nations in the country's development processes over the years, as we have jointly sought to maximize the direct benefits of the United Nations here to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We particularly welcome the organization's current contribution towards the implementation of the priorities of the government as articulated in its National Strategic Development Plan, Vision 2020. Trinidad and Tobago's Vision 2020 is consistent with the Millennium Development Goals to eradicate hunger, illiteracy, disease, disempowerment, and environmental degradation. An enhanced and effective collaboration between Trinidad and Tobago and the United Nations is indispensable as the country pursues its ambitious journey towards developed country status by the year 2020. Indeed, the 5 development pillars of the strategy are developing innovative people, nurturing a caring society, enabling competitive business, investing in social infrastructure and environment, and promoting effective government.
Over the years, the UN in Trinidad and Tobago has partnered with the government and the non-governmental sector supporting development efforts of the country, both by financing in the early years and in a cost-sharing partnership in later years. There are 9 resident and 3 non-resident UN agencies which provide accumulated knowledge and a full range of expertise of the entire UN system to Trinidad and Tobago. And while these agencies usually work away from the public eye, each has a specialist role in advancing the standards of living for the communities they serve. With over 215 UN staff working in these agencies, their contribution to the development process in Trinidad and Tobago is evident in many areas. The work of these agencies is helping Trinidad and Tobago to realize the development promises made at independence in 1962.
Almost half a century later, the United Nations has an even stronger presence in Trinidad and Tobago. PAHO WHO has been supporting public health efforts to promote wellness and has been instrumental in programs to eliminate malaria and polio. ECLAC serves as an important technical partner in the use of information and communication technologies to build a knowledge-based society, one that increases opportunities in such areas as sports, creative arts, e-commerce, and culture. FAO supports farmers in addressing the country's food security challenges. By supporting national AIDS programs and partners in events which bring anti-AIDS messages to the widest possible audience, UNAIDS helps provide universal access to HIV prevention, treatment, care, and support services for all in need. UNDP is a partner to the government in capacity development and institutional strengthening by providing training support and helping to create tools needed for data collection and analysis. UNICEF provides technical support and advocacy for children's rights through legislation as well as counseling services and training. Several UN agencies are involved in specialized training for journalists and recognition of the media's achievement in monitoring and assessing Trinidad and Tobago's development. The United Nations in Trinidad and Tobago has the largest volunteer program in the world. Over 100 volunteers have brought expertise in medicine, engineering, architecture, and educational planning. The International Labour Organization focuses on such issues as occupational health and safety, HIV/AIDS in the workplace, as it promotes a decent work environment for all.
With these achievements and a steady economic growth, the United Nations remains committed to working with the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago to address current and emerging challenges to attain national development goals.
And if we can go straight on, Jerry, to the second video, which was the announcement of the logo for the 5th Summit of the Americas that occurred here in April, and some of the results of which have been playing out in the recent OAS summit in Honduras. And then we'll go on to Joni introducing the Commonwealth Heads of Government video. Thank you.
In this futuristic design, the stylized continental flame-like land masses visually take the eye on a journey across the Americas. As host nation for the 5th Summit of the Americas 2009, Trinidad and Tobago is positioned at the center of the design with the use of concentric circles emanating outward. This suggests the significant global impact Trinidad and Tobago can have on the Americas and indeed the rest of the world. The globe located in the core of the Figure 5 also embeds Trinidad and Tobago's strategic and central positioning and possibilities within the Americas. While the colors used represent the primary colors of various national flags of the Americas, each application allows for new meaning to be adopted. One would notice that surrounding the land masses, there is green, which speaks of our environmental sustainability issues. This flows into blue, which is symbolic of the aegis of the region's leaders and the cultural and economic ties between the Caribbean and the Americas. This, topped by the figurative red glow, speaks of the spirit of prosperity, warmth, vitality, and energy of the people of the Americas. The design would not have been complete without highlighting one of Trinidad and Tobago's major achievements. The steel pan is one of Trinidad and Tobago's proud innovations. The use of the notes brings together the design applications, which are aptly capped off with the national flag of Trinidad and Tobago swaying to the tunes of the national musical instrument. These elements cooperate with a single purpose: to portray and effect the theme of the 5th Summit of the Americas, securing our citizens' future by promoting human prosperity, energy security, and environmental sustainability.
It's a great pleasure to be able to introduce Joni Grimmer, who works with the Commonwealth Foundation in London and with the Commonwealth Civil Society Advisory Committee to the Foundation, is responsible, along with the Summit Office, for the upcoming People's Forum here. Joni played the same role at the most recent Commonwealth Heads of Government and People's Forum meeting in Kampala, and has already had her first warm-up meeting here today in the south in San Fernando, and will be here for 3 or 4 more weeks of such preparation, including a meeting in Scarborough in Tobago. And we're looking forward to her being here until the end of November. Welcome.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, as Tim said, my name's Joni Grimmer. I'm the project manager for the Commonwealth People's Forum, which takes place in the week preceding the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting every 2 years. So we wouldn't exist if it weren't for the CHOGM. And we basically provide a link between civil society and government. We talk about bridges, building bridges between civil society and government. There are another 2 fora that happen at the same time as the People's Forum. There's a business forum and a youth forum. But we don't wait until November to take action around the CHOGM. We have activities happening from March, actually, this year. We run a number of consultations around the Commonwealth. We've run one in West and Central Africa. There's one happening in the Caribbean in a couple of weeks in Grenada. There are national consultations happening in Malta, in Canada. We're doing consultations in Asia and South Africa and also Tanzania. One unique aspect of the People's Forum is organising a number of national consultations in the host country. So today, as Tim said, we kicked off the first of 4. We had a consultation in San Fernando. We're doing one in Chaguanas next week. 2 weeks after that is Sangre Grande, and 4th of July is in Tobago. So the consultations all evolve around exploring the theme of the People's Forum, which is also the theme of the CHOGM, which is partnering for a more equitable and sustainable future. So without further ado, I shall introduce this video, which I haven't seen. Take it away.
Freedom. Peace. Leadership. Words familiar to Commonwealth member states. These represent the highest qualities of the spirit of man. The 2009 logo design is modern and innovative. It incorporates bold colors and graphic elements that reflect a harmonious balance between the inhabitants and its environment. The globe is presented with green land and blue water, representing 53 member states across 5 continents and 3 oceans. The brilliant greens and blues depict the shared positive goals and values to achieve the aspirations of the peoples of the Commonwealth. The map of the host country, Trinidad and Tobago, is highlighted in strong and passionate red in embrace of its Commonwealth partners. The notes of the steel pan, the national musical instruments, surround the globe. This symbolizes Trinidad and Tobago's cultural diversity, harmony, warmth, and openness as we join with the rest of the Commonwealth family in shaping the future together. The Commonwealth globe is the central image, while rays illuminate the background and reach out to join hopes and dreams with tangible benefits. Welcome all to CHOGM 2009.